I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, the digital tool helping San Diego with fire safety. And an unexpected show of support from medical marijuana businesses following one of the worst wildfires in California history.
Plus, new information about an investigation into the YMCA's corporate office in San Diego. I'm Peggy Pico with an update and why your water bill could go up by more than 35%, when San Diego City Council will vote on the rate increase plan, and how soon it would start.
But we should have our own house. We were there before. We're the largest community by far.
We really don't believe that his actions at this point are appropriate or helpful to the cause.
A house divided in Balboa Park, the extreme claim by activists demanding a cottage from Mexico, and the organizers who say they're doing more harm than good. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Hi, good evening. Thanks for joining us. A high-tech solution to help protect lives and property during San Diego's fire season. County leaders and fire officials unveiled a new online map today showing which regions are most vulnerable to wildfire. The map allows you to type in your address and assess the fire danger. Firefighters say the tool uses the same mapping system fire agencies use.
Looking at the topography, the fuel types, do fire estimating. When our firefighters and our chief officers go to a fire, they can pull tools on their mobile data computers and look at 100 years of fire history. So we can look at what fires did in the past and judge them based on the conditions of today where they're going to burn.
The map also provides tips on what to do if your home or business is located in a high-risk area. The map can be found at readysandiego.org. A new alert on the road tracking down hit-and-run drivers with the state's network of freeway signs. Governor Jerry Brown signed a law creating a public alert system. It will use the same signs broadcasting amber alerts. The so-called yellow alerts will show details about the vehicle running away from a crash scene. Details may include the color and make of the car, as well as the license plate number.
So local law enforcement has tremendous discretion. If there's a hit and run that involves, let's say, a Toyota Camry with a license plate starting with 6, they would then relay that to CHP, and then CHP would have discretion of whether to post it on the highway signs.
Denver started a similar alert system in 2012. The arrest rate climbed there from 20% to 76% in 1 year. Turmoil at the top at the second largest YMCA chapter in the country. Following up on a KPBS report raising questions about decisions made by the people in charge of the San Diego branch, Peggy Pico finds out how it's affecting YMCA members.
Earlier this month, KPBS reported YMCA's corporate board hired a consultant to oversee an investigation into mismanagement allegations. KPBS investigative reporter Amitha Sharma joins me with an update as more information emerges. And Amitha, you reported that one of the allegations against YMCA CEO and president and some of his executives was about poor treatment of the staff. What have you learned?
Well, sources who spoke to me on the condition of anonymity told me that the investigator questioned them about turnover among high-level staff. Several long-term, well-regarded executive directors at YMCA branches and other senior managers have been forced to resign for reasons that remain unexplained. And in some cases, there have been confidentiality agreements with these exits and possible payouts according to public documents. Callista Davis was a chief human resources officer and an executive vice president. She left with a $236,000 payment. Alfredo Velasco, who was an executive director at the Palomar YMCA, left with a $136,000 payment. We wanted to speak to YMCA president and CEO Baron Herdelin Doherty about these exits. He declined to speak to to us through a spokeswoman.
Well, now the YMCA in San Diego County is the largest organization, is a very large organization, I should say, with several thousand employees. So it may not seem that unusual for employees to leave or get laid off. So what's so notable about these exits? Is it the money?
Well, that's a fair question. So what is notable is that back in 2010, the YMCA of San Diego County came out with a 5-year strategic plan. And one of its goals was to boost diversity among upper management to better reflect some of the communities that the YMCA serves in South San Diego and in the southern part of the county. Well, sources say that several of the executive directors and other senior managers who've been forced to leave actually were minorities who spoke second languages, and that they have been replaced by Anglo people who did not speak a second language. Now, an internal document was also given to me that shows that the goal between 2010 and 2015 was to boost diversity from 22% to 30%, but that actually diversity has gone down from 22% to 20% or lower among upper management at the Y.
Is there anything else being investigated at the YMCA?
Contracts with vendors. There is a policy at the YMCA that requires branches to buy 85% of their cardio exercise equipment from a vendor called Precor. This policy came down at the same time that the YMCA's regional vice president was in a relationship with a sales representative at Precor. Secondly, there have been problems with new software at the YMCA. This software was designed by a company called Daxco. This comes after a task force was put together to choose a company to provide software services. That task force chose a company other than Daxco. But an executive with the YMCA told the corporate board that staff actually recommended Daxco, and so they went with Daxco, and now there are problems with that software.
So what does this have to do actually with everyone who, or anyone who is actually going to the Y to work out?
Fair question. Everything. The YMCA of San Diego County is the second largest in the country. It's got 15 branches. It's the 7th largest employer in the county, and it served 400,000 people last year through its childcare programs, its sports programs, its youth programs, exercise programs, other programs. And sources say that this strife at the top of the organization has distracted the Y from its mission, that they are not boosting membership as much as they should be, that they are not doing enough outreach programs, and that they're turning the Y into a sort of spa/fitness type of place and simply aren't reaching poor kids and others who need the Y. Now, Hurdle and Doherty says, look, membership has gone up 14% and family memberships have gone up 22%.
And very quickly, we have to end on this. What's the status of the investigation today?
Well, that investigation, according to sources, has wrapped up. It's likely a topic of conversation at today's corporate board meeting. That board is supposed to supervise Hurdle and Doherty. This investigation has definitely put him under scrutiny. It's not clear what they make of the problems. It's not clear what the board members make of the problems. They've not responded to my interview request, but sources say this board has been complacent. They've been asleep at the helm, that they have indulged Hurdle and Doherty. They have ignored complaints about his leadership, and that they may very well keep the findings of this investigation to themselves. At the same time, the people who spoke to the investigator, their anonymity is not being guaranteed.
All right, KPBS investigator Amitha Sharma, thank you so much.
Thank you, Peggy.
An independent investigation is moving forward into allegations of an abuse of power at the San Diego Unified School District. Board members gave the green light to hire investigators who will look into School Board President Marne Foster. KPBS education reporter Matt Bowler joins us to explain what led to the vote. Matt, what happened at the board meeting?
The 4 remaining board members, Foster recused herself, unanimously voted to authorize $40,000 to be spent what they hope will be a month-long investigation. Now, the investigators are going to be looking at a fundraiser Foster hosted for her son's college tuition and if she was secretly involved in a $250,000 claim against the district. Foster spoke with the media after the vote, but she didn't say much.
I respect the actions of my fellow board members.
Now, Matt, you also spoke with Superintendent Cindy Martin, right?
Yeah, and Martin was responding to accusations she was influenced by Foster. Martin says she was pressured, but dealing with pressure is nothing new.
I get pressure from board members constantly. I get pressure from constituents, from parents, from students, from teachers, from classified staff, from the average community member. People care about education.
Martin says she never worked with one single board member to make any personnel decisions.
KPBS education reporter Matt Bowler. Teachers sounding off on the value of standardized testing. A new poll out finds most teachers think test scores aligned with the new Common Core standards are far less important than the curriculum itself. Nearly 80% say critical thinking skills are the best indicators of readiness for college, not test scores. The survey was conducted by California Teachers Association and a nonpartisan research group. It could change the name of the game for medical marijuana in California. Assembly Speaker Tony Atkins and lawmakers met at the Hall of Justice today. They are backing a package of bills establishing a statewide regulatory framework for medical marijuana. This includes creating an oversight agency to help regulate the industry and establish rules for labeling and product testing.
All the stakeholders came to the table: law enforcement, local agencies, patient advocates, medical marijuana businesses, and even Governor Jerry Brown's staff participated in helping to create what we have before him to sign, hopefully in the next few days.
So far, 11 dispensaries have been approved by San Diego officials to operate legally, one in Otay Mesa, the other in the Midway District. Helping medical marijuana patients who lost so much after a destructive fire in Northern California. That wildfire burning near the Napa wine region ripped through nearly 200 square miles and destroyed 2,000 homes. 2 companies are now offering free marijuana products to patients who lived in the area. Another sign of the times in the media world. Another newspaper has been sold in the South Bay. The bilingual weekly La Prensa changed ownership after 39 years. The family-owned paper was sold to a veteran of politics. In a column to readers, owner and editor Daniel Munoz said it was the right decision and he wanted to see the paper continue. Whole Foods announced today the end of a practice to sell products made by inmates. It comes after prison reform advocates protested, accusing the company of profiting from inmate labor. Whole Foods says it's ending the program because customers said they were uncomfortable with it. All aboard the bandwagon for baggage fees. Amtrak is taking a cue from the airline industry that's generated billions in revenue. Starting tomorrow, the passenger train operator will start charging $20 to passengers who exceed limits for carry-on and personal items. Customers are allowed to bring for free 2 personal items weighing up to 25 pounds and 2 carry-on bags weighing no more than 50 pounds each. Amtrak says the fees will help preserve space on crowded trains and address safety concerns over heavy bags. A wild interruption at the surfer lineup. A 20-foot gray whale swam by at Silver Strand State Beach up in Coronado yesterday. Captain of the K's shared this GoPro video on YouTube. Researchers tell the news media they're worried about the marine mammal who rather looks thin and sick. They're not sure if it's old age or if it's in poor health. Lifeguards, police, medics, and the Coast Guard respond to a mass rescue exercise today off Ocean Beach. Although this was a simulated drill to test readiness, we want to warn you some of the injuries look very real. First responders call it a low-frequency, high-risk exercise. A mock airliner crash in the ocean leaves scores of people hurt, clinging to lifeboats as rescue crews race against time to save lives.
And this is a regional exercise to figure out what we're going to do in the event of a major catastrophe related to the water.
Victims bloodied, broken, and bruised from the crash are taken from the water to San Diego Lifeguard headquarters near Mission Bay for triage. Then quickly transported to a makeshift hospital for treatment. 83 people from the plane were brought to the simulated hospital here on Hospitality Point for treatment.
David Rain with the Lifeguard Service says they've developed a model to help multiple agencies communicate during an emergency. Now they just need to practice and work out the kinks.
A contingency for everybody getting together for a major catastrophe of some kind, whether it be an airliner, boat, a ship, cruise ship, or even one of the whale watching boats, for example. We're all prepared. We put the same methods into place, regardless of what the incident is.
A similar exercise is planned for this time next year.
Running dry as San Diego deals with the ongoing drought. We first told you about the water rate proposal hitting San Diego mailboxes this week. Peggy Pico has more on the reasons why neighbors may be paying more for water.
The letter will alert all San Diego residents to a city council vote next month on a plan for a big increase in water rates. The 5-step plan would result in a 41% rate increase through July 2019. But the first price increase of nearly 10% would kick in this January. Here with a closer look at the plan are my guests Brent Eidson with the Public Utilities Department and Don Kelly with the Utility Consumers Action Network, or UCAN, a group that opposes the rate increase. And Brent, San Diegans have met state mandates to conserve water. They have decreased water consumption. So how is water conservation linked to a plan to raise water prices?
So water systems are quite complex, as you can imagine. In our case, the city of San Diego, we have to import 85 to 90% of our water from our water wholesalers. So we have to purchase that water. Then we have to treat it. We have to distribute it through our systems. And so there is a nexus to how much water is used, to how much the charges are, but there's also a considerable amount of what we call fixed charges. Those are the charges that water agencies like ourselves incur whether we serve a drop of water or not. And so that really changes the dynamic of how water bills are received from the customer, because we have to build for that infrastructure.
Have you seen a decrease in revenue then because people are conserving water as they should be?
Yeah, as you mentioned, the state mandate required the city of San Diego residents to cut by 16%, and in the first 3 months of reporting, we're upwards of 25%. So that is a direct correlation to the revenues the department receives.
Do you know about how much revenue loss there's been?
Not exactly, but it's pretty much a dollar for dollar, and that's because we operate on what's called a cost of service. We only charge our customers what we need to charge to run the system. We don't have any additional revenues we collect. We're not an investor-owned utility that has profit margins or anything of that nature.
What else are residents paying for besides water use? You talked about these fixed rates on their bill. Yes. What kind of things is that paying for?
Well, you're paying for infrastructure, right? You're paying for the pipelines and the treatment plants and the pump stations to get the water to every one of our customers. You're paying for the billing and the meter readers, and those are smaller percentages, of course. The large dollar amounts is our infrastructure and our water purchases.
And Don, UCAN is opposed to this proposed rate increase. How come?
We're worried about sticker shock. They're proposing a 10% increase, or 9.8% increase in January. And then they're proposing another almost 7% increase in July. So within the next 9 months, customers are going to be getting a 17% increase in rates. We understand that the Water Department is doing a very good job, and they're trying as hard as they can, and we actually applaud them. We have very good relationships with them. But we're hopeful that there is a way to either restructure, redesign, or at least lessen the impact of the rate increases that are coming. We know that they have to collect the amount of money to run their system to provide water at reasonable prices to the citizens of San Diego, but we're concerned that they're asking, the way that they have structured this water rate increase is going to be extraordinarily difficult for a number of customers.
What would an acceptable rate increase look like to you?
Right now we have asked the Water Department to give us information. We're still waiting to find out what it is, how much money they actually need to have year over year, and what we're hopeful is that the Water Department would consider an increase once per year. So, for example, the 9.8% increase in January, followed by an increase next January, as opposed to January and then July.
And Brent, what do you think about that?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, we operate on what's called the cost of service. And so we look at what our costs are to provide the service to our customers, and the rates that we're proposing meet that test. And that's a constitutional test where we have to and can only charge them what it costs. And so a proposal such as one that Mr. Kelly is presenting may not meet that legal requirement of the cost of service. And I say may or may not because we haven't done a full analysis. But on his exact proposal. But I will say that to the point about helping the customers on the front end in this beginning of this rate increase, because it is significant, the department is using $32 million from our reserves just to make sure that we didn't have to raise them even higher. We have obligations that we have to meet, and that's what these rate increases go for.
San Diego residents, though, can protest this planned rate increase, and how can they go about doing that?
Absolutely. So again, Proposition 218 allows our customers to have a voice in this process, and that's where they should be receiving in the mail as early as today a notice from us, the Public Utilities Department in the City of San Diego, with great detail explaining the proposal, and then also explanations of how they can weigh in with City Council before they take a vote.
Right, there's a letter on the back that they can sign.
That's right, we've
protest
included
letter.
a protest form on the back.
All right, Brent Eidson and Don Kelly, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Imagine a free college education. It will soon be a reality for students in the Grossmont High School District. Starting in 2019, they can apply for a scholarship to attend Grossmont or Cuyamaca community colleges and take up to 30 units for free. They will also get a laptop, a year of parking, and support services. Students need to have at least a 2.0 grade point average to qualify. It's all part of a new program from the East County Education Alliance. It's officially the start of flu season. State Health Department says now is a good time to get the flu vaccine. This year's has been tweaked to better fight the H3N2 virus strain. It infected many folks last year and is expected to return this year. Seniors, children, and pregnant women, and anyone with a weakened immune system are the most likely to contract the virus, and the ones who should especially get flu shot.
The best time to get it is before flu starts during that season, because it usually takes at least a couple weeks to get your maximal immune response for protection against flu after the vaccine. So you ideally want to get the vaccine before flu season starts, although we never know when flu season starts. So as soon as it's available, as soon as your provider has the vaccine, that's a great time to get the flu vaccine.
Flu season is from October through May, with peak months typically in December and February. Experts say everyone over 6 months should get vaccinated.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next News Hour, we catch up with two artists 10 years after their drawings of the Prophet Muhammad sparked outrage and violence. That's Wednesday on the PBS News Hour.
They want a home of their own among Balboa Park's international cottages. There's no cottage for Mexico. Some activists want to change that. KPBS Fronteras reporter Jean Guerrero says they're starting with a petition drive.
Mexico is one of 33 countries in the House of Pacific Relations, a nonprofit that highlights San Diego's cultural diversity with music, art, dance, and more in Balboa Park. Only 19 of those 33 countries have actual cottages in Balboa Park. Mexico is not among them.
I received all sorts of phone calls going, how come there is no House of Mexico? This is unbelievable. We need to do something about it.
So Enrique Morones created the House of Mexico group in 2004. It banded with other groups to form the International Cottages Committee, which has been working to get 9 new houses built in Balboa Park.
So it's important that we have a House of Mexico.
After 6 years of work, construction's about to start. But because of space limitations, most groups will be sharing duplexes. Only the House of the Philippines will get its own building.
And I said, for the Philippines, they already have a house.
It's true. The House of the Philippines is currently sharing with France. But the groups were allowed to choose new locations based on their seniority in the House of Pacific Relations. The House of the Philippines joined in 1961.
Mexico was there in 1935. We were there at the very beginning.
That's also true, but it was expelled twice for reasons that remain a mystery. Morones' group has only been around for about a decade, so the House of Mexico will have to share a duplex with India. Morones is now circulating a petition asking Mayor Kevin Faulkner and other city officials to secure a standalone cottage for Mexico.
What's taking place in a lot of these issues is blatant racism. It's absolutely wrong.
George Novinger, chair of the International Cottages Committee, has a different take.
I think it's a wonderful thing that the two houses that will share each duplex will learn from each other and coexist there pacifically, peacefully together in the same vein that the House of Pacific Relations was founded.
He's the president of the House of Peru, which will share a duplex with Palestine.
Although we understand Enrique's desire and the reasons behind wanting an individual house for the House of Mexico. We really don't believe that his actions at this point are appropriate or helpful to the cause.
Art Castro, representative for the House of Mexico on the committee, signed off on the plan to share a duplex. He says it's taken years to get where they can break ground.
If we were to start the process again, we're basically back to step one because there's about 5 different boards that have to review the whole process.
Viva Mexico! But the current president of the House of Mexico, Berta Hernandez, says she stands by Morones' effort.
How can you not have a House of Mexico? We have a House of the U.S., we have a House of, many other nations, and Mexico should have had its house from a long, long time ago.
There's a happy solution. We don't want to eliminate anybody. If the Philippines are going to have their own house, God bless them. But we should have our own house. We were there before. We're the largest community by far.
Construction on the new houses is set to begin spring of next year. Jean Guerrero, KPBS News.
KPBS video journalist Katie Shulov helped produce that story. More warm weather on tap for San Diego, but we're looking at a gradual cool down. Sunny by the beaches, temperatures there in the upper 70s. 80s for the inland valleys with cooler nights, mostly in the 60s. Clear in the mountains, temperatures in the 70s daytime. High winds expected in the desert, triple digits and 90s. Here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom on Morning Edition. San Diego Film Festival kicks off. Thousands of entries vying for a spot among featured films and documentaries. That's tomorrow on KPBS Radio. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. You have a great night.